This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reynaldo Morales. I'm the Director of Elder Services at the Center on Colfax here in Denver, Colorado. I have the pleasure of actually introducing someone from our community that I want you to know a little bit more. It's actually Kenneth Feltz, and he will be sharing a little bit about his story. So I'm going to pass the microphone over to Ken. And my first question, Ken, so that way people get to know you a little bit more. Can you tell us a little bit about like where you were born and your siblings, a little bit about just you.
I was born in a good old farm country, Dodge City, Kansas, 1930, just as the Depression was getting along. And we stayed there for about 4 years. And then my father, we moved to Raton, New Mexico on the railroad, Raton to Belen, to Albuquerque, to Winslow, and back to Dodge City. So I was in lots of places when I was young, which did have an influence on my personality in that moving from place to place, you didn't have time to make friends. And when you did make friends, you didn't want to because they were painful to leave and you knew you were going to be leaving them. So I really kind of became an introvert back then. And right now I'm having a difficult time speaking because I'm nervous because this is not something I do. But
Well,
I came from the old farm country, Dodge City, Kansas. Got
was it
storms
just
and all.
you, or did you have other siblings?
I have two older brothers. Both of them have passed now, as have my parents, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Um,
we lived in the Dodge City, and there was the rest of the extended family around there, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and so forth.
mm-hmm. And are you the only one here now from family? Like, do you have any relatives that are here in Denver or nearby?
No, Dodge City still holds most of them, then Albuquerque and Winslow.
Okay. So tell us a
Um,
little bit about yourself also, because you have, I believe, a daughter, Rebecca.
yes, I have one daughter. Um, she was born when I was straight acting and was married to a woman, and we had the one daughter. And then when she was about 7, we got divorced. 20 years ago, my daughter came out to me as a lesbian, um, which was quite an experience for a gay person to have his lesbian daughter come out and not be able to say, but I'm gay, so it's okay, because I was still straight acting. It was, you know, quite a situation there. And of course, I gave her the good old Christian line of, well, you can't do that because it's not right and it's not approved, so don't do it. And she, of course, ignored me and has had a beautiful life since then. She and her wife, and they have 2 kids. So
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 grandkids.
And she was also the first person that you came out to, correct?
Yes, considering I consider March the 13th, Friday the 13th, as the day in which we were isolated. And then I was totally alone here at home. And I decided this was a time for me to write my memoirs. I had been encouraged to come out by my personal trainer of 5 years, who was gay, and still is. And so I started writing my memoirs. And about 3 months into it, I was talking to my daughter one day and I said, I really, really wish I could have found Philip. And she says, Philip who? Well, I suddenly had to say, okay, here's Philip, the man I lived with for 2 years out in California back in 1958, 59. Well, that was quite a coming out for her, and she extremely accepting. Uh, and I thought, hey, if she's so good at it, everybody else can be too. So I came out on Facebook. I came out on all my emails. I just made sure. And then my daughter-in-law contacted the Denver Post. The Denver Post and I worked together for a while and got that story together, which was published. That story has gone around the world over and over. And I still, every day, get calls for interviews. I'll have one tomorrow with Newsweek magazine. Um, the story is out there that this 90-year-old decided to come out.
For sure. Well, tell me a little bit about Philip. I would love to kind of know, who he was. And I believe, like you said, you were with him probably in the 50s. And what was life like? Did y'all share time together? Tell me a little bit more.
Okay, this is Philip.
Ah, yes.
Um, in 1950, I joined the Navy. I was in the Navy for 4 years, got out of the Navy, went on and finished college, and decided I wanted to go back to California to live. So I moved out there and went to work for a retail credit company to do insurance investigations. The office, we all meet in the office in the morning and get our assignments of where we're going, what we're going to do. We come back in the afternoon and write up the report. Writing up the report is not too easy, so Philip was one of the other employees, and he took me under his wing to teach me how to write reports. And we just kind of had an affinity to each other right off the bat, and started dating, I guess you would call it. And then eventually I moved out to where he was with his sister, and we lived there for about a year and a half in Bellflower, California, near Long Beach. Philip was from Indiana, and he was living with his sister. I'm a little confused here now. Just a minute. Let me wake up.
It's okay.
Uh, okay. He shut up.
I know.
Okay. Uh, Philip and I moved in together. We had a lot of great times together. We reached the point where I became into conflict between my religious background and my emotional background. The two were in total conflict. I couldn't be one or the other. And I finally made the wrong decision to decided I can't be gay. I've got to go straight. And I quit my job out there and I moved back to Kansas where all my straight people were.
Mhm.
And I left Philip. I tried to find him after I got divorced from the woman. I tried to find him using phone books and so forth. Uh, was unable to locate it because with a Philip Jones, Jones in that big area, not able to find him. While I was getting all of these messages on the internet, one lady said, "That's what I do. I find people, uh, and can I work with you?" And I said, "Yeah." And it didn't take her very long till she located Philip for me. He died 2 years ago. For me, he died last Thursday, a week ago, and that's what I'm grieving is his short demise to me. But I posted that on the net, and he's had over 500 hits as of this morning. The picture I showed you, and his a little bit of obituary I wrote for him. So he, after he left me, he did have another boyfriend, lived together. The other guy died about 6 years ago. I'm in contact with his niece, who is sending me some of his things out of storage. So I made a full circle of leaving Philip and coming back to Philip, but got there too late.
Ken, you also served in the military, in the Navy, is that correct?
Yes, I served 4 years in the Navy on the minesweeper USS Swallow, AMS 36. The only ships lost in the Korean War were 5 minesweepers because we're the ones who go into the shore first to get rid of the mines before landing forces can go in. So obviously, we're the first targets that they have. And I have quite a number of shots of them shooting at us and missing, thank heavens.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was a daily ritual of getting into the close to the shore and then seeing the flash of white on the shore and then water splashing up all around you. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was 4 years in the Navy, which was an exciting experience.
What would you say were some of the factors that prevented you from coming out earlier than you did?
The biggest thing to me would have been the society that we lived in at that time, the culture. Totally unaccepting to gay people. Coming out was a very difficult thing for people at that time. There were no organizations to that you could go to for help. Uh, the police in California had undercover agents that would stop at every bar and solicit. Uh, and then when you made an agreement, they would be arrested. Uh, and it was really not a good time to come out, as far as I could tell. And I really had no real reason to come out after Philip, because my reason for not coming out was that I wanted to be straight. I wanted very much to be a straight person the rest of my life. And I worked at straight acting for a long time, but it just never worked. I mean, I just had to come out at some point. So after I left my wife and got the divorce and tried to find Philip, then I had some relationships, but I was back into then being gay, but not out gay.
Mm-hmm. Is there ever a moment where you feel like there's some internalized homophobia or anything that comes up for you and says, you're not making the right choice. Maybe you should go back into the closet. Any of those voices come out now, or what happens?
Yeah, I just finally was dealing with that the other day, and um, when I was 12 years old and had my first experience with a another high school, I mean high school, no, 12 years we were still in much lower than that. Anyway, I went for a an overnight with him down in Belen, New Mexico, where we had adobe houses and no central heating, and this was winter, and so they built a big fire in the living room stove, and then they opened the doors and the heat goes from room to room. He and I then had undressed and gone to bed, and the house began to cool down, and the house got colder and colder. And when that happens, you find heat you can. So we were very close there for a good part of the night, and sometimes after. But that's that when I finally decided that, hey, I'm gay, what can I do about it? And I said, well, I can't tell anybody because the culture doesn't accept it. It's wrong. The church says it's wrong. All I can do is internalize it, which I did. It's a memory that I buried deep, and uh, when you remember something, you can't unremember it. It's there the rest of your life. Um, so I whenever I made a decision from then on, it was, if I wear these clothes, if I read this book, if I go to this movie, if I talk to these people, will I be considered gay? It just became a part of the routine of making a decision. Any decision just about was, and then it became so subconscious that I no longer was thinking about, am I going to be seen as gay? It was just, it was there. It was just, it made, the decision was made for me by my internalized uh, thought.
And of course, you shared your story about this internal person too, because I'm sure that people kind of can read a little bit. They're kind of confused even about why does he have the name Larry and then in parentheses Ken. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I found it very heartwarming to tell you the truth.
Oh, I was constantly fighting these two urges, one to be gay, one not to be gay. I just gave them names. The gay person is Larry, the straight person is Ken. Throughout life, then, there were times when Ken was fully in control of my life. Got married, worked for 30 years for the state, all the time as a straight acting Ken. But when I was letting myself go as a gay person, then I was Larry. And Larry was the one who would wear shirts like this, or even I got, let me see here if you can see. No, you can't see. But anyway, I've got on some of the brightest shorts
I
nowadays
love
that
it.
I never would wear as Ken. Ken always wears dark colored clothes, dark regular button shirts. I mean, Ken is just perfect. Larry is just lets it go and does whatever. Wears hoodies with stripes on it, has a streak of purple put in his hair, got his toenails painted last week bright blue. Uh, Larry is in charge right now and running my life.
Yes, and I know that you say that in your emails every now and then you say, and Larry approves.
Yeah.
Um, yes, well, of course, being in quarantine and everything, really, we're able to, oops, we kind of lost you there a little bit. Give you a little time to adjust the camera again.
I
Uh, there we go. I think we're fine.
okay. Well, all right.
Oops, a little bit more. There you go.
How's that?
There we
There we
go.
go.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
Now go.
um, you said that it was by accident when you came out to your daughter. And as you started sharing your story, you went to social media, you went to Facebook. You felt that that was a risk, and do you feel that that risk has now been worth it? Like being out is where you had said being out has freed you, right?
Yes. Yes.
Sure.
Um, I had no anticipation of what was going to happen when I was out. I guess you'd say Larry kind of took it and run with it. We sat down and wrote a thing that said uh, that at time, sometime in life, you have to look back and see what's going on and how are you really being your real self. And we came up with the answer that no, I was not being my real self, that I need to let people know who I really was. Uh, it was kind of scary because I had really no idea what anybody would think, but I did not pause when it came to send button. I just pushed that button and it went out. And the response was almost immediate, and it's been nothing but supportive everywhere, and everybody from all over the world uh, has been that way. I get messages all the time. I got one yesterday from a young man in Vietnam who said he's very frightened about coming out to his parents. And I wrote him some words of encouragement and so forth to let him know that it's his life and he has to live it. But I, of all the messages that I've gotten, I've had two that said, we'd like to send you some literature from the Bible so you can uh, get yourself straightened out.
Hmm.
So those types of messages I ignore. I don't bother to answer. I'm not going to argue with anybody on that basis.
You mentioned that this young person, very fearful of coming out, and rightfully
Yes,
so, as much of us are discriminated or, um, no longer part of the family, right?
absolutely.
Did you feel that that was happening to you as you started coming out and friends and family, especially because you just mentioned that someone was trying to say you got to read the Bible and convert and stuff like that. Was that from someone just not related to you, or was that from
Oh,
friends and family?
no, that was some strangers from
Okay.
far away,
So
another
what
planet.
has been the response from your friends and any family relatives, and what was their reaction to you?
Every one of them, everyone has been highly supportive, telling me how wonderful it is. If there's anything they can do for me, they will. Uh, and it really surprises me because one of my nieces is married to a minister, and her postings over the years have always been highly religiously oriented. And so I was surprised when I got a message from her saying, congratulations, we're behind you all the way.
What
Yeah.
advice would you give to someone about their wanting to come out, especially older people? You know, I mean, you're yourself. I think more people are saying, wow, at 90 years old and he's coming out, so proud of you. But you probably know that there are some other older adults who are probably wanting to, but just don't know what to expect or what to do. What advice would you give them?
I would ask them to examine their life and see if they really feel they're living it as they want it to be. If they are not, then they need to start considering what the results of coming out would be. Would it really affect them so negatively that they shouldn't? Or will they get so many benefits that they will wish they had done it a long time ago? Every person has to make their own decision based on their own lifestyle, their own friends, and so forth. So I can't just say, go ahead and come on out if you want to, but you got to consider the results, what it's going to be like. It's much,
Absolutely.
much easier now than in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or even 80s.
Absolutely, and I believe your word of advice is what we always share with others. It's knowing that you're also going to be in a safe space, right? Because
Yeah.
even if we think about people who are living with other family members, or if they're older adults that are living in senior care facilities, they're coming out, their choice, is it going to cause harm, or are you going to feel supported? And I believe that's the best advice that we can give people. Just know that you want to be out, be yourself, but know that safety is always first.
And you can be out, I'm sorry, you can remain in and still participate in programs such as uh, the center offers, like in 2014, 2015, 2016, I was able to volunteer through the center for Pride Fest, and I worked over there for 3 years. But I was straight then, and they saw me as being there because my daughter was a lesbian. So I was there supporting her. Now, anything I do, I'm there supporting me that I am out now. So, and I used to attend the coffee group that they had back in, 20 years, 15 years ago, maybe. And then it conflicted with my other appointments, so I had to stop that.
You also participated in this year's Denver Pride 5K, and that's the shirt that you have on.
Yep,
Yes.
that's it. I uh, I ran a 5K that they ran in 22 minutes 48 seconds. Unfortunately, I only got a half a mile in that time. But I did was the top 5 fundraisers, and I did raise over $850 for the center.
Thank you so much. And of course, you were using your walker, and so you were just kind of like going along with your daughter who was keeping time.
Yes, yes, a 5K on a walker.
Well, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. And of course, it has benefited our programs. Um, we've talked about, someone who's coming out and what advice we would have given them, and you shared that. What tips then would you give to those whose friends or family are coming out to them?
Uh, you don't criticize until you've walked in their shoes for a while. Um, like in the beginning of my memoirs, what I arrived at quickly was I don't deserve to be gay because of things I've done, because I didn't do anything particularly. I'm only gay because I was born that way, and being born that way is not something you can change. So if that's what you are, then you've got to accept it and uh, you know bring it out for other people to see. Um, I'm a little confused there. That's all right. It's
No, it's okay. It's all good. And
Thank
I
you.
think it just like really just what you are saying is giving people who are going to be supportive that time. I believe I can share that even with the way that your daughter reacted. Of course, she was supportive. The other people are going to need a little bit more time to
Mm,
kind of like process It took us a long time, including myself, to actually have the time to be out, be in the gay community. I mean, it was, for me, was one of those processes where it wasn't a choice. It was just like mom and dad asking, especially my mom, are you gay? Are you in a sexual relationship with your partner? And so because of that, I was thrown out of the house. Not everyone has that experience, but it took them a long time for them to process it and to accept me as a person who identifies as gay, and then having my partner and now my husband who I am with. It's all a process, right?
Mhm.
It's all a process.
When my daughter came out to me, it didn't take very long, of course, for me to relate to her, and we had a good relationship quickly. Her mother, however, took over 2 years before she would even speak to her, and she had a difficult time then with her mother uh, accepting her. And I'm not really for sure if her mother fully accepts her today. Even after she accepted her as a lesbian, it took her even longer to accept the grandchildren. The grandchildren were naturally born by the wife, so they were not a blood relative, and the ex-wife really didn't recognize them as part of her family, and at times wouldn't even use their name until Rebecca would make her do that. So Rebecca had to face two parents. One of was accepted her wholly quickly, and the other one really, even to today, is probably not fully accepting.
hmm I'm going to borrow this question from one of the interviews that you had with so many people, but it was about what have you learned about unconditional love?
I've learned that it's so much of that love out there that goes around that you can dip out of that pool and it never goes empty. Everybody sends me all kinds of messages of love, support. Uh, I really didn't expect that. So I expected people to say, "Well, that's fine. I'm glad you're out. Thank you." But I didn't expect them to say, "We really love you now, and we'll be right here behind you, whatever you do." So yeah, it's a never emptying pool of love that they're dipping out of.
hmm You are an inspiration to all of us. You are. And it gives us hope, and especially during this time that we're kind of having to stay at home. And you use your creativity in writing your memoir, and we can't wait to read it. Uh, I'm going to say thank you, first of all, for just being you, for being a part of our community. You have strengthened our community by your coming out. And I just want to say we love you. We really
Thank you.
do.
Thank you.
Everyone, I'm actually going to turn it over to Q&As. And because again, I am recording this, I want to let you know that if you do not want to be part of the recording, go ahead and turn off your camera. But I'm going to switch it over to Q&As. And Ken, stay with me. We're going to, there you go, proud. I love it. I'm going to switch it over to everyone so that way you get an opportunity to ask questions. So if you can, just kindly raise your hand and we're going to continue from here. All right. Hi, Wolf. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. We can't hear you. Sorry, Wolf, we can't hear you right now. Oh, that's me. I need to unmute you probably too. Let me go back and unmute everyone. Okay, try it again, Wolf. I'm not sure what's happening. feel free to maybe if you can, because we can't hear you, Pam and Wolf. There is a little. Did you say something? There's a little chat box, and you can chat there with us and ask a question. All right, I'm gonna who would like to ask a question? I saw a hand somewhere. Or any comments, words of love, support. Go ahead, Shawan.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I just want to thank him for participating and sharing his life with us. And his story is so amazing. And his memory is really good for 90 years old. I'm really impressed by that. And I just loved hearing his story. So thank you, Ken or Larry. I don't know which one you prefer.
I'm Larry today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Thank you so much.
All right.
Joe, would you like to comment?
I just really appreciated all the heart that you've shown in this, and I think it will help a lot of people hearing your story, especially maybe some younger people that are really having trouble dealing with coming out to their family and stuff. And I just appreciate you being part of the group. It's really kind of cool to hear your story and talk with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I made a posting just the other day on the net about gratitude, and in it I said that a lot of the messages that I've received have said, "You are so brave." And I thought I should attack that and say, really, I'm not.
This is your
I
question.
was doing what I thought I had to do, but if you want to talk about brave people, look at those who came out before in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s. They're the ones who were brave. What they had to face, didn't have to face at all. I pointed out people like Matthew Shepard. He came out, and eventually, look what happened to him. And those are the people that were brave. So I did come out, but I'm not brave about it. I just something I had to do.
Thank you, and sorry if I interrupted the conversation, but I actually was able to call my friends Pam and Wolf. And the question, Larry, is where are you spiritually right now? Do you feel like you've reconciled with your spirituality? Is that of importance to you or not? I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
I would say, while I was straight acting, I was in a major church in Colorado Springs, even part of the staff running the Social Concerns Commission. Met my ex-wife in that as a church group, was pretty involved, and that went for a long time. I would say by 20 years ago, I had finally decided that I could not reconcile my emotional side with my church side, and so I left the church. I do not have a church today. I accept the Bible as a piece of literature with some beautiful, wonderful stories in it, but I see that there's 100 religions around the world. I could have picked any one, and it would have been the same thing. I mean, it's a creation of mankind. I don't have a religion today.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And Phil, go ahead with your question. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi Larry. Thank you for everything you do. I agree and disagree with what you said about religion. I'm basically an agnostic, a Christian agnostic, but I do a lot of things with MCC, and I also attend another church called Belong. And I've found that LGBTQ people are affirmed and welcome at a lot of places right now. Yeah, and comparing today to Colorado Springs, at any point, Colorado Springs 20 years ago, it's like things are a little bit better now. I don't think one has to have religion, and my religion is very I don't know what you call it, unconventional. I have lots and lots and lots of disagreements with people in the church, but it's a great community. So I just want to say thank you for what you've done. I understand what you feel a loss of from the church you and your wife belong to in Colorado Springs. Should you choose to look for churches now, it's a different ball of wax, but you don't have to. You don't have to have a church.
I agree. I just don't like the pick and choose thing that I'm going to be a Christian and I will pick and choose what I want out of it and I'll reject the rest of it. I have to accept the whole thing if I'm going to be a member of it.
My question, thank you.
It's fine.
My
Thank you.
question to you, Ken, is, during this time of being at home, safer at home, as the order is being called, you had an opportunity to write your memoir. So for
Yes.
those that want to start something, like to write their own little story, what advice would you give them? I mean, where does someone start to even, write someone's story?
Well, as it has been so often said, you start at the beginning, uh, which is really what I did. I started with my birth in Dodge City in 1930 and just followed it from then up sequentially. But eventually, it had to go off in more than one line because one is the 30 years with the state of Colorado, and then there's little bits in there like 4 years with the Navy that you you have to put them all in. But what you will find is that the more you start writing, the more your memories kick in and come to the surface, and you have to deal with them. To me, it was a real cathartic exercise to bring Philip back way from the bottom of my memory and remembering him really as the sweetest, nicest, most wonderful person I ever met. And so then I had to put him in. And so he covers maybe 20 or 30 pages of my 140 pages, or our life together does, because that was the central point of my existence now.
Where would you like to go from here? And I'm gonna be frank. Would you like to start dating now?
I
Would
would
you think
love to have
about,
a
yeah,
boyfriend. Yes, I'd love to date.
for sure. Well, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
let's
it
find
just
somebody with a walker so we don't run into each other.
for sure. Well, what are some other hopes that you have for the future for yourself?
My greatest fear at the moment is losing my independence. In the last year, I've gone from 3 hospitalizations, a big bout with cancer where I had to go through chemotherapy, which lost all my hair, which is just now really coming back, although it's there, but it's not back. Um, After the chemotherapy, then it became rather depressing. And in working with my daughter, then one day I said, the quality of life I have now is not very good. I take a treatment, in 2 weeks later, I get another treatment, but in between, life is miserable. And I said, I don't think if I'm 90 that I'm going to do this the rest of my life. Why live in misery? So I had to make the decision then that I'm going to stop the therapy treatment and go ahead and die, because I'd rather die doing things I want to do than die from treatment for cancer and having miserable days day after day.
Hmm.
So I've been on the upswing then since about February or March, and then all of a sudden the virus hits and I'm locked away in my house, so I can't get out, so forth. But uh, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's hard to make some decisions sometimes, but they're forced on you.
yes. And I'm sure Larry is just like craving to be close to people and let's go out. Come on, people.
Yes, yes, yes. Larry wants to go down, run up and down Colfax Street and stop at a bar or two.
And let's hope that that day will come soon.
Yeah, well, Kenneth never smoked, never drank, didn't have sex with a woman until age 30. Didn't particularly go wild over that. But Larry, I think, would really tear up the town.
Well, thank you again, everybody, for being on the call with me. And thank you so much. Really appreciate you, Ken. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording, and I want to appreciate you all. Stay on the call with me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.